All right, I will call to order the meeting of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, with a roll call, please. Oh, before we start the roll call, would you make sure your microphones are on when you're speaking and say your name? And since we're wearing masks, try and do your best to be as close to the microphone as you can. So, Jen, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Danielle Henderson? Here. Michael Widmer?
Present.
Bill Hauk?
Here.
Michael Drinkwater?
Here.
John Enlow?
Here.
John Flansburgh? Mickey Hazelwood?
Here.
John Martini?
Here.
John Combs?
Here.
Dave Solero?
Here.
Mervyn Wright? John Zimmerman?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2 of our agenda, public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make public comment, you'll have 3 minutes. Jen, do we have any cards?
I have no one, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, approval of today's agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
Solero, move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Solero, second by Mr. Zimmerman, I think. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Item number 4, approval of the minutes of June 2nd, 2021. It's come to my attention they're not actually ready for our review. So can I have a motion to continue this to our next meeting, please?
So moved. Second.
Ooh, that was a tie.
Let it.
Motion by Mr. Widmer. I'll go second to Mr. Enlow. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item number 5, report discussion and possible action on comments on the draft update to the population forecast and projections of water demand, peak day requirements, and wastewater flow. Mr. Wessel, is this going to be you today? Or Mr. Smitherman? There you are.
That's right.
Thanks, Jim. Hi.
Should I just take it?
Go right ahead.
Can you hear me? Is the mic on?
Yeah, we
It
got
sounds
you,
like
Jim.
it. Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Martini and Commissioners. Got a quick PowerPoint presentation for you. Last June, I gave you a progress report on the update of the Water Management Plan, Chapter 7 on population forecasts, projections, peak day requirements, and wastewater flow. I reported that working with Tumwa Regional Planning Agency and the Regional Effluent Management Team, I had compiled, projected water use through 2040, projected peak day production from Tumwa, and projected wastewater flow by water reclamation facility in 5-year increments out to 2040, and that was provided by Turkey Meadows Regional Planning Agency. All that remained at that time was to integrate that data into the regional water balance model and then write up the conclusions. So that's what I thought until a couple of days ago. So this is what you're used to seeing in the plan as the illustration, I guess, that goes along with the regional water balance. After reviewing that and the data with Turkey Meadows, or with employees at Tumwa, and who also serve on the Regional Effluent Management Team, we concluded that this water balance map presentation doesn't really mesh well with the planning that we've been doing for effluent management on the Regional Effluent Management Team. We agree that there's value in the analysis, in the water balance analysis, but the way we present it here just it doesn't emphasize the high priority we've been putting on effluent management planning. And so we kind of concluded that the water balance map has served its purposes in the last 2 plan updates, but maybe it's time to present things differently and more consistent with what we've been developing as far as the Regional Effluent Planning Guidance document. So, for example, this is a slide that we used in a presentation earlier this year on the development of that guidance document. So it's a really high-level look at water balance. It starts with water supply and water distribution on the left side through collection and treatment, and then effluent management on the right side. So that's just an example of how things might be presented, but that wouldn't be the only thing presented. This is a map graphic that shows kind of spatially where some of the alternatives for effluent management are located, with a legend for existing infrastructure, dotted lines for proposed or possible infrastructure, that sort of thing. And then this is, if we drill in for more detail, this is actually one of the graphics that's been developed. It's all in draft form now, for Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility, excuse me. This is a collection of regional alternatives. You can see we have three influent flow curves. So the blue dashed line is the most aggressive growth curve, and that is from the facility planning work that's been done. The green curve that's down at the lowest is the one generated by Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency based on the consensus forecast. So as you remember, they take the consensus forecast population, they distribute it parcel by parcel across the region according to where their model says there's going to be growth, and then they apply essentially wastewater generation factors for each one of the parcels, and then they run out a projection from there. So it's probably the lowest curve that you're going to see. And then the effluent management team has concluded that the best curve to use to analyze kind of costs and that sort of thing for the different management alternatives is to use a midline between those two curves. So those are the three effluent generation curves you see here. And then the stacked bars show on the bottom, you can see existing effluent management practices, and then the brown, kind of reddish brown line above that, future and viable. So those are alternatives that are fairly thoroughly vetted and in the more advanced planning stages, maybe even some of them being implementable at the time. And then above that, future needs vetting. These are concepts, things that are earlier in the planning stages, or maybe just existing as concepts right now, but those would get us up to the red curve. And so, as some closing remarks, work on the guidance document has slowed down, as some of you may know, because one of our key consultants is seriously ill. And so we're working with the consulting firm, getting files and that sort of thing, and working with our other consultant help on the project, but it's not moving as quickly as it might be. And then I have concluded that work on the water balance, and then also on the wastewater and effluent management chapter that still needs to be updated and brought to you in draft form to review. We really would be best served if those updates are done along with development of the effluent management guidance document, so that we're essentially giving the same message, and we're using data that's developed for one into the updated plan. And so with that, here's my request. So never mind what I put in the staff report that's in your packet. Now we're here. I would like to meet with Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, TUMWA, and the effluent management team some more and see what we can come up with a suitable alternative for a water balance that meets everybody's needs. Remember, we've got to be in conformance with the regional plan, and we've got to use the consensus forecast for at least the basis for our projections. We can deviate from there if we explain why we need to be more aggressive or differ from the consensus forecast, but we've got to start there somehow. And so I want TMRPA involved because they're going to be the ones determining whether or not the plan conforms with the regional plan. So I'm just asking for some more time to meet with them and bring back a suitable alternative. I'm going to be out of town the first weekend of October. So first week in November would be when I can come back and report on progress. And hopefully I can have, the updated chapter for you by then. But that's my request, so for your consent or consideration. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any questions or comments from the commission? All righty. Any public comment with regard to this issue?
We do.
Thank you, Jen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael DiMartini. Sorry, I was just stopping by from work, so I didn't get a chance to get better attire. On this item, the population forecast, I'm hearing a little bit about water balance, and the water balance sheet that was displayed. I just wanted to present that there is a linkage between the water balance and flooding in the North Valleys in particular. And so those linkages exist, and so that's the only reason I wanted to say something on this item, is just to remind everybody about that linkage and the items that pertain to flooding and its relationship to the wastewater component. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any further public comment?
We do not.
All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission for potential action. Mr. Enlow.
Yes, being a member of the effluent management team and working with Jim at Tumwatu on these issues, I agree with his recommendation and would make a motion that Jim just brings back the report in November as he requested.
Thank you, Mr. Enlow. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second, Drinkwater.
Thank you, Michael. Motion by Mr. Enlow, second by Mr. Drinkwater. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Michael, or thank you, Jim. Motion carries. All right, moving on in the agenda, item number 6, report discussion and possible action on comments on the draft update to the flood management and stormwater drainage plan. I believe this one is you, Mr. Wessel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to apologize. I didn't realize this until I just looked at the chapter before stepping in here, that the chapter that you have in your packet probably doesn't have the red line edits like it was supposed to. I'm not sure why they didn't translate to the PDF when we put them together, but we did. We've made those changes and we have the corrected version. They are in your inboxes in your mail, so I apologize for that. This is chapter 6. This is the flood management, stormwater drainage chapter. As you might imagine, that one of the key players, obviously, that has a lot of input to this is the flood project, and I did receive some updated information from Commissioner Henderson, which I appreciate, and they did some considerable rewrite in sections, basically 6.6.2 through 6.5, and so you'll find quite a few changes and updates there, and so these should reflect what's currently going on in the flood project. In addition, in sections 8.3, Lemon Valley hydrographic basins, there's a further write-up and discussion on what's currently going on there to help alleviate flooding and so forth in Lemon Valley, east and west areas, and in addition to that, Antelope Valley and Cold Springs Valley, some language was added to suggest that the plan would be open to seeing further evaluations of those closed basins in advance of development to help alleviate some of the problems. So those are kind of the major changes that were in the chapter. The rest of it is, there's a lot of background and history in this. We are introducing this chapter. You haven't seen it yet. So this is your, not really asking for any action today, just that you take a look at this and have a chance to review it and make any comments and submit them as you see fit. So with that, that's all I really have for you on this chapter. If you have any questions, see if we can field those.
Thank you, Mr. Wessel. Any questions from the Planning Commission? All right, hearing none, do we have any public comment on this agenda item?
We do.
Thank you again, Chairperson and Commissioners. Michael DiMartini. Again, I'm glad to hear that this item is an open item and it'll be available for future discussions. I did not have before me the red-lined copy, and with the lack of time, I wasn't able to see exactly what the changes overall were in this proposed chapter. I would like to just remind everybody about being that this chapter extends out to Cold Springs Valley, and there's some large developments proposed out there. There is an issue that's before the Supreme Court that Mr. Ponye is representing, a client in Cold Springs, And so to the extent that staff is proposing chapters that relate to Cold Springs, I think it's important that everybody acknowledges Mr. Panyu's involvement in the litigation at the Supreme Court. And then lastly, I'd just like to say that there are some flood mitigation plans going forward, even though this commission has not required conformance reviews for anything but highly regional, extremely large projects. So that should be clarified in the chapter as to how it does or does not relate to smaller projects. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none at this time, I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission.
I'll take a stab at something. Just move to accept the report as is, provide comments back to staff. What time frame, I'm guessing, are we looking at, by November?
Yeah, I would think perhaps November is probably right. Currently, the schedule has it down for October, but really, if it's not ready by then, we'll extend it on.
Okay, how about we accept the report and aspire to get our comments to staff by October for a review at the November meeting.
All right, motion by Commissioner Solero. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Zimmerman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, status and discussion regarding the chapters and schedule. Mr. Wessel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And well, so today's discussion obviously has changed the schedule, and quite frankly, with some of the concerns over the consultant who is working and is currently ill, I suspect that this may be out for another couple of months. And so I wouldn't be surprised if our schedule pushes. But I don't feel badly about the schedule. If you look at it, you'll see that on the schedule you have a series of chapters that have asterisks listed in their columns, and those are all indicating the chapters that are currently posted up on the website and can be reviewed both by you as commissioners, but also by the Western Regional Water Commissioners. They requested an opportunity to review those chapters, and we've made those available to them. Now, I would say I've also sent out an email to them asking that if they have comments, questions, concerns, that they should be contacting their representatives here on this board to make those changes. That would be in line with the way that the Act identifies how this plan should be developed. So we have 6 of the 10 chapters, pretty far along. I think that the flood chapter is going to be right in along there, and it should be almost completed. The ones that are obviously out will be the population chapter, which is going to be coincident with the chapter 4, the wastewater chapter. And then after that, the issues and actions plan, that'll probably come right on the heels. So, you're looking at, if you look at the schedule, it shows us being done in November. It's not going to happen. That's not likely to happen, but that was my best guess at the time. And I think moving forward, all this does is pushes down a few more months. I don't think it's going to make any big difference in our time frame. And there is no statutory requirement for when it's adopted, so just when it's reviewed. So that's what I have for you. Obviously, the schedule I provide you is probably a little out of date, but hopefully it'll be a little bit better next time. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Wessel. Any comments, concerns from the commission? All right, does anyone want to take action today? I don't know that we have much to take on here. All right, we'll move on. Is there any public comment with regard to agenda item 7? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just takes a second. My name and words for the record. My name is Peggy Lear Bowen, P-E-G-G-Y space L-E-A-R space, last name Bowen, B as in boy, O-W-E-N. And I wanted to come down and thank you for your courage. And thank you for your service. And it takes courage to come to these meetings when you're concerned about other things that are going on in our world right now. And I wanted you to go home and tell them, Peggy, your family, Peggy Lear Bowen says, thank you for their courage. For it takes a great deal of courage for them to send you out to these meetings and pray and hope that you'll come home safe. And that's my wish for all of you, that you all be safe. And my prayer for you is that you always have a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your belly, no bugs, no germs, no viruses, no smoke, no rain except for we need to get rid of the drought, and no snow, no rain, and snow, what we need in the mountains so that we'll always have water in our Truckee rivers and in the mountains. And thank you for your service. Because if it weren't for people like you, the courageous people that you are, then I have to say to you that we don't get things done and people aren't protected. And it's your caring, and you really care. It's not just doing a job. It's not a job to you. It's life and making sure our community is a better place because you were here. And I want to thank you for that. And thank you for letting me have my public speech. And maybe I went a little bit over, and I did say my name and words for the record, so that, I would love to get, I didn't receive any agenda about this meeting, because what's happening is, because people think, yeah, everybody in the world has a smartphone or they have a computer. Well, I have to tell you, the elders, many of the young people, a lot of people don't have computers and they don't have the fancy dancy phones. And these words are for the record, name and words are for the record. I am asking you and requesting to you that don't just, and when you do your ads, please put a phone number there, a regular telephone number, so that we can call if we want to be mailed something or have something done. And please, for people who are here now speaking, and I'll sign in after I finish speaking, please mail to me your agendas in advance so I can study them and come and talk to you, which some of you might not appreciate, but I hope most of you do. I love you, love you, love you. Thank you for what you do. You are awesome. Peggy Lear Bowen, name and word for the record.
Thank you, Peggy. Is there any other public comment on this agenda item?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, our program manager's report. Mr. Wessel.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So in your package, you have the project status report, and I would tell you not to place any bets on this report. This is an interim report, and we are currently in the midst of having SAP is being changed over from the end of the year. So I've kind of hobbled this together as best I could to try and get a feel for where things are. I don't feel that this is as complete as it would normally be, but September is usually a really hard time to get this report together. I suspect that in our next meeting you should have we'll have a better view of what these projects look like. So I don't, that's all I have on that. It's just, like I said, it's not in my opinion, it's not a very good report, but it's the only thing I've got available to me at this time. As far as the financial report, clearly our revenues outweigh our expenditures at this point in time, so not seeing any issues there. So with that, Mr. Chair, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions from the Planning Commission to Mr. Wessel? Mr. Widmer?
You. Are we on?
Yeah.
I'm just somewhat concerned, Chris, that there's some projects here that, and I understand your statement that there seems to be no completion whatsoever, and so I'm kind of concerned about the advance of these projects, if there's anything actually really being done.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of an amalgamation of new and old projects, and most of them are new, because I've tried to pull this off the latest report we had, and so unfortunately, that's not complete, and so I had to fill some in by hand, and that's why I don't like this report. I'm just telling you out front that's not what I would prefer to do. Usually I like to pull it straight off of SAP and have the information directly from there, but because we're changing over, not all the projects have made it over onto the new encumbrance report, so I just don't have them available to me. They're still in process. So the final projects from last year kind of are being wrapped up, and they don't show up on this report. And unfortunately, yeah. So our last report would have had all that on there, pretty much where we were. So, and the audit's coming out, so there'll be any corrections at that time too. We have our audit coming up the end of this month.
All right, thank you.
Right, any other questions regarding agenda item 8?
Can I say ditto, that the public needs to see those things too? So they know what
Peggy, I'm sorry, we closed the public hearing on this one. Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9. Discussion regarding location and possible agenda items for the upcoming next meeting. Mr. Wessel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think our next meeting, well, it's possible we can have a meeting in October. However, I feel that based on the fact that some of our chapters, which are our main focus right now, are going to be pushed over into November, it may warrant that we forego our next October meeting, go for a meeting in November. That would typically include not only the meeting, but also our workshop to do our priority settings at that time. So those would include the chapters identified in the schedule. Any of the 4 remaining chapters, population forecasting chapter, stormwater chapter, possibly something on the wastewater chapter, and then the issues and action plan. Those are what I have slated for the next meeting.
So, Mr. Wessel, if I'm hearing you right, you're recommending to the Planning Commission that our next meeting be on November 3rd?
That would be correct.
Thank you. Any discussion from the commissioners? All right, I'll look for a motion for a meeting on November 3rd then, please. Oh, I didn't catch who that was. Was that Mickey? Okay, Mike, thanks. So we have a motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Mr. Woodmere. Any further comment? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move on to item number 10, comments from the commissioners. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 11. Mr. Wessel, any staff comments today?
Just one. It is my intent has been to retire, and I am doing so as of today. And as a consequence of that, I think we will be working to find somebody to replace my position. In the meantime, I think Mr. Smitherman has volunteered to kind of help see that through, and I've offered to help in whatever way I can. My decision was just purely based on PERS financial decision and nothing else. So it's just where we're at. So at any rate, this is my last meeting as a Washoe County employee, I guess. So there's that. But anything else? Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm here and available to provide some assistance to the commission on an ongoing basis as needed. So That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wessel. I'm pleased to hear you've gotten to the end of the Golden Road, and I'll wish you the best.
Thank you.
Any comments from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we'll open the meeting back up for public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make a comment, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for your service, Chris, and it's not retiring, you're recycling. You go on and do other wonderful things. I look forward to seeing you in those places. When you said the meeting was going to be on November the 3rd, I need to know what time, please. 1:30? Thank you very, very much. And thank you all, and please, please be safe. And may you and all of you be safe, and take care of yourselves, because you are all a treasure. Thank you, dear Ball, and over and out. My name and words were for the record.
Thank you, Peggy. Any further public comment? Jen, any cards? All right, thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 13. Without further ado, we are adjourned. Thank you.